Amen. 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 Thank you, Lord.
My first baby.
Amen.
Thank you. And thank you all. Thank you for being here. This is this race has been very interesting so far, and we have about 2 weeks to go. And as others come through, we have 2 weeks to go, and I appreciate all the help that you're giving, and I want to give honor to God, who is the author and finisher of all of our lives, to the pastor and first lady for allowing us to be here today, and for everybody who's been out working and trying to get, getting people to know who I am and to come on in today. We know that there are a lot of things going on in the community today, and quite a few funerals going on. That's sad. But so I always, sometimes people feel that when the house isn't packed full, that there's emptiness. I don't see the emptiness. And I'll share a quick little story before I truly get started. And thank you, Brianna, and welcome everyone. There was a story of, there was a theater group, and they were going to put on a play one night, and this was, years and years ago. Help yourself. Years and years ago. And before television, before telephones, before radio, so really back in the day.
Amen.
And they were going to put on a play, but there was a horrible storm. And they thought, oh shoot, nobody's going to come. But the director told his cast, he says, you all, because when a lot of times when you think nobody's going to come or nobody's there, you don't do your best. And so he said, don't worry about it. He says, the king is going to be here tonight. And they thought, oh, and because the king was going to be there, then, oh my goodness, they were going to put on a performance for the king. And they went out and they did their thing. And it was a stellar performance because the king was going to be there. And see, I know that the king is here.
Yeah, amen. Amen.
Here.
Thank you, Lord.
And I just want to, I want to thank all of you, and there are no empty seats. Mm-hmm. The king is here, and we all know we have angels. Yeah. And so the angels are here too. So I am proud to be able to stand in front of all of you and just tell you a little bit more about myself. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. I was sitting on edge. I thought, oh my goodness, he's going to tell one of the stories, because I always tell stories about him. But I'll share this one little story with Bruce, not about the 12th grade when, I did that thing with the bell. I'm not going to tell that. But I have to tell this. I was school board president for 3 of the 4 years, and welcome, 3 of the 4 years. And Bruce was in 6th grade, and the principal called, and he said, Bruce is in my office, and he hit somebody or did something, and he says, I don't know what to do, because I was school board president, and I was kind of like their boss, and he says, I don't know what to do. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, I just don't know what to do. And I said, have other kids committed this same infraction? Yes. And what did you do? And he said, I said, did you suspend them? He says, yes. I said, well, then do your job. And that's it. Amen. He was afraid to tell me, he was afraid to do the same for my children that he did for everybody else. But I want to make sure that when anything that I do as a school board leader, it's the same for everybody's children as it would be for mine. Amen. And I want the teachers and administrators and others to gain that same mindset, to work with all children for the benefit of the whole child as they would their own. Right. And there's a saying, it's the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. That's right. And if that be so, then the betterment and the empowerment of a community and of a school district begins in the homes of its students.
Right.
And so when we see that, and thank you, Pastor, thank you for everything that you said, because without the family, I mean, we are the family. Everybody that comes to school came out of our home or our house that morning.
Right.
And so when we look at it like that, and we strengthen the home, then we're going to have a better chance at educating the child.
Absolutely.
And someone said, when we save our children, we save ourselves.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that are going to be making decisions for us in our lives as we get older. And if we don't put caring and compassion in them now, they're not going to be able to give it to us later on. One of my sisters, when we were children, was frying some bacon, and it popped on her. And she says, "Oh," and she said a word she shouldn't have said. And then she started saying, "Oh, I mean shoot, I mean shoot." And my mother said, "What did you say?" "Mama, I don't know." She said, and she didn't know how that came out. My mother said, "If it's not in you, it can't come out of you."
That's right.
And that's in our schools. In our schools, it's been, I have a little bit about my journey. I began, oh my goodness, 40 or some years ago, because I really enjoyed my children, and I enjoyed traveling a little bit. But when my child had to go to school, I thought, well, I'm going to put him in private school, because even in the 70s, it was, things haven't changed, and that's the sad part about it, because other things have changed. We're not watching black and white TV anymore.
That's right.
Our phones are not connected to the walls with that long curly cord.
Yeah.
Not all of us, like it used to be. You know, you can't just take the extension cord and do what you have to do. My father called some things the Board of Education, but or beltology. Bible does say though, beat them, they won't die. Spoil the child. Spoil, what is that? Spare the rod, spoil the child. That aside, I had to put my children, I wanted to put them in private school. And I thought, well, no, because then I'll be paying twice. I'll be paying the taxes for this public school right behind my house, and I'll be paying for them to go to another school. So I thought, I'm gonna make the school, as far as my children are concerned, I'm gonna make sure they have a private school education in a public school setting. And as I was doing it for my children, everybody else's children got a chance to get a ride in that wagon.
Amen.
And as it started growing and developing, I just found that everything wasn't as we thought it was. My son in first grade came home. And I'm telling you things that are still happening now, sadly. My son was in first grade, came home, and I said, "Hey, where's your books? So we can do homework, we can study." And he says, "Mama, there's only 6 books in my class." And I said, what do you mean? And I'm thinking he's making it up. So I went to the school, and the teacher says, "He's telling the truth." She took me in her empty pantry and showed me there were only 6 books. So I went to the superintendent's office, pretended like I had an appointment that they forgot about. And the superintendent came out, and I told him, and he says, "No, we send books to all of our schools." And I said, "Well," she showed me, "it's not there." So the long story short, the superintendent found out, and he called me because he was quite upset. He found out that the money was going there, but the money was going for other things. And I said, "Well, what is the money?" And so I started going to meetings and conferences to find out, you know, where is the money that goes for what? And so as schools had free lunch programs, there were others that were saying, "Oh, they don't need that, they need to feed the kids at home," and they wanted to cut them out. And so my thing was, you know, somebody else said it, I think it was Garvey, if there's hunger inside, nothing else can enter. And so we have to feed the children. We have to make sure that they have what they need. And everybody is saying, well, the parents are not doing what they're supposed to do. Well, a lot of parents don't know what to do. And I believe that all parents care. Parents are not always welcomed when they go up to a school setting. I have stood out while the secretary was on the phone, and I've just stood there, and I've had an appointment, and I just stood there and I waited until somebody came out and said, did Miss Royston come? You know, I was supposed to be in a meeting. I'm out there, yep, I'm right here. But she thought I was one of the parents. And so what I'm saying is, we have to build. My strongest suit, I guess, is building and developing parent, school, community partnerships.
Yes.
That's important. That's important. And in doing that, in doing so, then you have everybody right there at the table that are concerned about the child. It's a holistic approach. A holistic approach. We want to develop the whole child and leave no stones unturned. One of the building those, I worked in elementary, in the elementary and high school, schools mostly, building resource centers, parent community partnerships. And someone said the other day, a lot of the problem is in the middle. And when she said that, you know, I remembered there were programs stuck in the middle. A lot of our middle school children, they fall through the cracks. And a retired teacher told me that. Sue, I shouldn't say it was you, should I? Okay. But this woman is a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge. And see, that's what we have to do too in our community. We have to pull on the wisdom that is here. And a part of what I want to do, when I'll get back to the journey, but a part of what I want to do, because this district is so vast. I mean, it's Pinhook, Callands-Gretna, there's all these areas, and I've been up in the hills and all over. What I want to do is have town hall meetings in each area and find out what the true concerns are. And I will listen, and I will act on it. I am not afraid to stand up for what's right.
Amen.
But if you come to me with a concern, and I research it, and I see that we can do something with this, you have to show up. You have to show up. You can't leave me out there by myself. Because then it appears, I can still push, but it appears that that's my idea. But it's about the people. It's the people. School board members and politicians are not the power. We're servants, and we're here to serve the community. We're here to serve our constituents. And so the people are the power. And I have to tell parents all the time that, you know, that first of all, remember when we were kids and we couldn't wait to be grown-ups so we could tell kids what to do? And guess what? We're the grown-ups now.
Yeah.
That's right.
And that's our job, to teach the children and to teach them well and to understand how our children receive and process information. The schools, there are programs that the schools really should have in place. And when you think about it, when you get flyers and they'll say, well, we have great parent participation because we put on programs, and the kids are singing and the parents show up. Great parent participation begins at home. And you've got to teach them how to understand their children, how to understand how they receive and process information. If it's through seeing the visual, if they have to hear it, and I don't want to go into workshop mode, but because that's what I get to do a lot. I get to teach parent classes, parent education classes, and teach the new teachers to understand the culture of different groups and understand the children. Because when we look at the programs, it used to be that a lot of children of color were in special ed because teachers didn't understand their behavior or they misbehaved or whatever. And now a lot of times our children who need those special programs don't get them because the studies have said that that there are more black boys in special ed or whatever the studies have said. So rather than be dinged for that, they just don't give them the services they want, they need. Those things are happening, but you don't know if you don't go to the meetings. Right. And I'm not just talking about just PTA meetings. You follow the money. Go to the school site council meetings where the budget is being developed, because parents are supposed to be a part of that, developing of that budget. And your parents are supposed to be able to write in. You know, the parents who are there, if you're not there, you just get what you get. But to write in, you know, we want to have speakers come out and do workshops. We want to be able to go away to workshops. We need babysitting when we're in discussion groups, that kind of thing. There's a lot, there's so much in the school district. I was able to work for an organization. It was a nonprofit organization called LEAD, Linking Education and Economic Development. And in LEAD, my job, again, was to develop family programs and throughout the city. And that is so, it's imperative, it's so important. If you don't have a family, like the pastor said earlier, the family unit, that's what the government is even built on. The structure of the family, the father, then the mother, and all those roles. And also I went from there to the University of Davis, and at the university, my job was to develop family programs. See, they hired me, this is it, they hired me, I was at a high school, and they wanted me to come over and show parents how to get their financial aid together and show parents, you know, the steps to college. And I told them, okay, I can do that, but that's not where you start. You have to begin with parents understanding what a family is, what a home is, how to discipline the children, how to have a disciplined structure in their home, and how to have home and school aligned. Because if when children are at school, if there's no structure at home, if there's no bedtime, no time you eat, no time you do homework, if there's time to take your bath, if there is no structure, then there's chaos. And see, those same children that are in chaos after school, those same children are in a structured environment during the day. And so they know when the bell rings, is you do this. When it's time, they know when it's time. They know when the teacher raises her hand or his hand, it's time to be quiet, or they know all of this. So they are in a structured environment. They leave there and they go into a chaotic environment. And they come back again, and the teacher has to start all over again, getting them to get all that stuff off of them. And so if parents can send their children to school ready to learn, ready to receive, then those children can be geared towards college or beyond, high school and beyond. And it's important too, it's very important that parents check the children's CUME folders. I don't know how many have ever checked their child's CUME folder. And a CUME folder is an accumulative record of their child's educational career from kindergarten to 12th grade. And in that folder, there are things that should be there, and there are things that should never ever be there. And one of the things that should never ever be there are handwritten notes. That's part of the law. And I'll share this quick story. Am I boring you? Yeah?
No.
Okay.
Stay on.
Thank you. There's a quick story. There was a parent that called me, and she was really upset. She said, I adopted my 4 children, boys, they were her foster children, and she adopted them a few years prior. And she said, and this one little boy, she says, every school he goes to, he gets in trouble for stealing. And she said, and so I take care of him, and then I go to the school and I write a check. You know, I make it right. And she said, but, and every time, and he keeps telling me, she said he lies, because she would get on him for not telling the truth. She couldn't get him to tell the truth. And so, as she's talking, I'm listening to her, and she said, but this time, when the school called me and said that he stole something out of the teacher's desk or whatever, she said, Miss Royston, my son wasn't even at school that day. And right away, there was a red flag, and I asked her, I said, when's the last time you checked his cume folder? And I explained to her what it was, just like I just did. And we had set up a meeting, and we went up to the school, and that's another thing, parents never go to those meetings by yourself, always take somebody with you, so you have another set of ears. And we went to the school, met with the principal, and she asked for his, well, I asked for his cume folder, and as the principal opened it, he was flipping through it. There were the shot records, there were the test scores, there were all of that, and then there was a handwritten note. He says, oh, this doesn't belong here. That note said, Johnny is a little thief. Got caught stealing at Kmart Saturday. Watch your stuff. That note followed that little boy everywhere. Every time something came up missing, guess who the suspect was? That was him. Dr. Moss says, he says, oh, and he balled it up. Yeah, he read it, we read it. He balled it up and threw it in the trash. I said, Dr. Moss, will you tear that up? You know, so it could never be put back in there again. So it's very important. It's just important. See, parents are the most important people next to their children that step foot on the school campus, and everybody knows it, except parents most of the time. Because if you're always visible, and it's not fair, but it's the way it is, a visible parent's child gets a better education. Mm-hmm. And I have teachers in the room that can tell you, because if Miss Brown goes to that school all the time and volunteers and does little things, and I'm not talking about just bringing cookies, but will help with whatever needs to be done, then Miss Brown's son gets in trouble, or daughter, well, she's going to get a phone call. Case in point, I had a volunteer parent who had a print shop, a real print shop where they printed newsletters and all this for everyone, and she did the school newsletters for me. And so her boy got caught smoking weed in the bathroom. That's an expellable offense. You don't just get suspended, you get kicked out of school and the school district at times. And so guess what happened? Principal called her, she came in, he told her what happened, and she said, I'll take care of it, it won't happen again. That's because she made herself valuable at the school. The same rules don't apply for everybody all the time. We know this. We know this. We know this to be true. And so what I want to do as a school board, I want to say school board president, well, I'll just, I push that back. What I want to do is I want to work with the other members, and that's important. And I want to be that strong influence, and I pray before I make decisions, so that it's the right decision. And I always pray that the Lord will guide my footsteps, you know, just guide me, you know, because sometimes it can be kind of threatening, you know, kind of threatening when you know that others might benefit from something that's not right, and you're in a position you have to go against that, and that's when you need the people. You need the people to stand behind you. I know some of the concerns, bullying, and these are things that I've been told. bullying, and no smoke zone. Teachers pay. We know teachers get paid poorly. We know custodians get paid poorly. Important people get paid poorly. And there's other people who get paid very, very well. And so we have to look for the fairness. I have so much more I can say, but I'd like for you to ask me questions if you have a question. Want me to tell a Bruce story? Yes.
I have volunteered in the elementary school, and the one thing I've seen is there are a lot of teachers, and there are a lot of teacher helpers, and most of them are women, and what we really need in the schools is righteous men that are led by God, to go and just volunteer at schools and to feel like they're welcome at schools so that they can volunteer and they can input wisdom into the children's lives as well.
Very good, and that can happen when there is a good family, home, and school partnership. And you can build those partnerships on campus. And we had one, and it was easy. It's so easy. They say parents don't come to the schools. Parents come every day and drop off their kids and pick them up. You know, you have to have a reason for them to come inside and a real reason for dads to come. In our partnership, we had, I put a big calendar on the wall, had student helpers that wrote in the dates, and we would call. I'd have a couple of mothers. It began like that, and we'd call the different grades. Like if it was for second grade, we call that first month, and then, you know, on and on. And we'd say this next month is the month for second grade parents to volunteer. We want you to come just 1 hour, one day of the month. That's the lure, because once they get in there, they want to stay or they want to come back. Can I come back again? And the mothers will usually say, okay, all right. And the fathers, well, what am I going to do? What do you want me to do? I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to make phone calls. All you have to do, we had these vests, parent on campus vests, and we say, all we want you to do is be a pleasant presence on campus. When you come to the school, you go to the office, and this was high school, but you can still do it. This was high school. You get your child's schedule with the rooms, and just explore the campus. Walk around and look for your child's class. And as they did that, they got a chance to see things. Their job, they had walkie-talkies and they got a chance to see, you know, see where their children were, and sometimes just stand in the class and observe. And the dads liked it. And 1 hour was nothing. And they wanted to come back. And other kids, hey, Mr. Jones, you know, it was great. And so that was the way we had dads on campus. And then from there, they do other things. But just be a pleasant presence on campus. You see a kid doing something wrong, you call the monitor or whoever it is who's supposed to be taking care of it. But they generally don't when they see fathers on campus, and you're right. And when fathers go into the classroom, we had one father, Mr. Robert, who in elementary really couldn't read. He couldn't read. And so, but he had this little boy, and he had full custody of him. So he just went to volunteer in class, kindergarten. He learned everything they were doing in kindergarten. First grade, he learned everything they were doing in first grade. On up, then he came to our church, remember? And he would sit up front, and he'd ask somebody to find wherever it was in the Bible, and the preacher. And after a while, Mr. Robert was finding it himself, and he was coming up front, you know. And so when you have programs on campus, we had a parent center, and we didn't know that he was actually homeless. And the way we found out, one day his boy would be dirty a lot, but he was a smart little boy. And his dad, the boy wanted a soda, and the father says, I told you, you can't have a soda. And he kept on asking, and then finally the father just blew up. He says, I don't have the money for it. You know we don't have, and everything just came out. And so then what we did, the women, we said, Mr. Robert, you know, we got vouchers, because you can get vouchers, he'd get vouchers for haircuts, and he rode the bus across from the shelter. He rode all the way to our school. And so we told him just bring all their dirty clothes in a duffel bag and just put it under the table. And so on a certain day, and then the next day you come and you pick it up. And different mothers would just take turns, and I took a turn too, and we'd take them, and what joy in doing that for him. You know, iron the little uniforms and everything and have them ready. And he asked me one day, he said, Miss Anita, he says, who are the people that do this? And I said, you don't need to know, you know. I said, because there's a joy in doing without people knowing that you did it. You know, I'd rather have God reward me for what I do than to have man. And I didn't make that up. You know. Heard it somewhere before, huh? So there are many ways, and we can talk sometime. There are many ways to get people on campus. I mean, I love it. I love doing, if it's something that needs to be done, then if you're connected to the one who knows everything, then it's going to come to you. There have been so many different programs that I've gotten a chance to be a part of, and people have come to me and they thought I was just making it up. They said, well, how did you know to do that? I said, well, actually I didn't. And I said, God always just makes me look like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen.
And when you look back on it, you have a history of making